Hey there, computer science class. It's Mr. Garby with another distance learning video. This week we are in Unit 5, Lesson 8 on Boolean expressions and if statements, a continuation of last lesson in which you learned about if statements. Okay, so we're going to be going through what really a Boolean and a Boolean expression is. A Boolean is just a single value of either true or false. It's a fancy sounding word. It just means a value that is true or false. So a Boolean expression is just some sort of expression that will evaluate the true or false. Okay, so sounds fancy. The concept really is not. And we're going to be looking at a bunch of examples on the future slides here. Conditionals, if statements, and selection were already learned, hopefully, last lesson. So you might want to go back to the video there if you forgot. So what I want you to do is probably go into code.org right now and pause the video I'm making to watch this video. This is just an introduction to Boolean expressions, but I will do some explaining as well. So the next page is a reference guide. And it says word soup because there's just like a bunch of words that kind of mean the same thing. So Boolean values, and Boolean expressions. A Boolean value is just a computer science-y term that means true or false. A Boolean expression is a statement that evaluates to a Boolean value. Conditionals, conditional statements, that's just simply a generic term for code that alters program flow based on true or false values, like we looked at last week. So an if statement or an if-else statement. If one thing is true, this line of code runs, otherwise it doesn't. Okay? So one of the big things here are comparison operators, and you've already seen the double equal sign. The double equal sign is really when we're determining if two things are equal. We use a double equal sign, not a single equal sign. Because in a single equal sign, as it states right here, we need something different. In a single equal sign, we are assigning a value to a variable. On a double equal sign, we're checking to see if they're truly equal. So it's important to make that distinction because single equal sign, for example, here, will say that age, it'll assign 18 to the variable age. Here, it's checking if age is equal to 18. Those are two different things. And then we have the not equal to sign, greater than, less than, greater than, equal to, less than, or equal to. Certainly things you've seen in math class, similar concepts, but we have an ASCII keyboard and computers, so we use the equal sign after because the greater than or equal to symbol with the line underneath it is just simply not on our computer, so we put those equal signs. Okay, so this double equal sign that I talked about, you will see that this either returns true or returns false. So it's a Boolean expression. It compares two values, numbers, strings, or other Booleans, and returns true if they're equal. Otherwise, it returns false. So for example, this first line, hello but with a capital H, double equal sign, hello with lowercase h. Notice inside parentheses to indicate it's a string, not a variable. It returns false because they're slightly different, in which the h is lowercase here, but uppercase here. So that's going to return false. They are not equal strings. This is a weird one. 3 in quotations, double equal sign 3 actually returns true. So this, on the left side of the double equal sign, is a string. On the right side, it's an integer. It's a number, which are really two different types, but it returns true because the double equal sign is forgiving. It basically coerces a string into a number to make comparisons. Third example, 2 plus 1, double equal sign 3. That's true because 2 plus 1 evaluates to 3. X double equal sign 7 returns true, as long or only if the variable x does have the value 7, which was written somewhere else in our program. Okay, so that's probably the trickiest one. We have the not equal to, which is similar to the equal to. It's just the opposite. And then we have greater than, less than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. So this is a good place to go back and look at if you need to reference those comparison operators, which are Boolean expressions. So our first practice I'm going to do with you. So we have some code here, and it says your task. Make each expression evaluate the true by changing only the comparison operator. So we're only going to change these guys, the comparison operators that are in the console log. We can easily test the results of comparison operators with console log. Run the code provided. See results in the console debug area below. Alright, so let's run it. Okay, we can see what happens below from our code. It says all the Boolean expressions currently evaluate the false, as we see in our debug console. Modify the code so they evaluate the true only. So we want all these falses to become true. Change just the operator. Okay. So for example, if 3 greater than 4, it evaluates a false. Switch the sign to make it 3 less than 4, which will make it true. So our first 3 lines of code in this workspace, we have 3 variables named age, first name, and Boolean. Age is assigned the number 16, first name is assigned the string Marcus, and Boolean is assigned a Boolean false instead of true. So our first thing that came out false. Age is greater than or equal to 18. Well, no, it's less than 18, right? Or less than or equal to 18. Both would come back with a true. So we can see now we fixed the operator to make it true. The second line, age less than 16. No, the age is not less than 16. But we can only change the operator. So I'm going to put less than or equal to because it is equal to 16. So it will come back true. Console log, first name, double equal sign Marcus. Okay. So, can we change this to come back true without changing the operator? Or with changing only the operator? Yes, because it's not equal to it. Notice that in our variable first name, when we assigned it, that's a capital M, but here it's a lowercase m. So when we run that, it should come back true once again. But it did not. Why didn't it? Because I put the exclamation point in the wrong spot. And there we go. So we have 3 truths. So you can continue on with this. And this is basically just this task on bubble number 4. So bubble number 5, again, please have code.org up and watch this video. And it's going to go into a little bit more about if statements. Okay, so I just watched that video, just a little bit more about if statements, kind of what we already knew from last lesson if you did that. So on bubble 6, it's going to be describing program flow and a flow chart and how if statements work. So if we just take a quick look at the flow chart, it's really just describing the order in which the program is executed. So the flow chart depicts a program executing one line after another until it gets to a point where it needs to make a decision. So we notice this, do that, ask the user how old they are. Okay, so here we are at this question, is age 18 or older? In order to determine which path to take, you state some condition. It should be a Boolean expression, something that evaluates a true or false. Here we have a simple comparison of 2 values, the person's age and the number 18. So yes, this is going to be a Boolean expression. If it's true, we have one line of code. If it's false, we have a different line of code. And then, no matter what, it continues on with the next line. So if statements work logically just like that flow chart. Now some key things here, the keyword if, you need to have that. The condition goes inside the parentheses, and the code, the block of code you want to run, if that condition is true, goes inside here, inside this block. Now you have to have the opening and closing curly brace, which if you're using block, it's going to do automatically, but if you're typing, it might be something you forget. Okay, so a quick example here. We have console log, so it won't show up as text, but on the bottom called voter verification. Variable age equals prompt num, how old are you? Okay, so it's saying age equals whatever the answer is to this question, how old are you? And then line 3 really, it says if age is greater than or equal to 18, execute these 2 lines. You can vote and don't forget to register. Okay, so only if the person is greater than or equal to 18 years old, which is voting age. If they are not, it skips those 2 lines. But either way, it's still going to execute the final line because it's outside of the if statement. And that says thanks for verifying. So everybody's going to see thanks for verifying because it is out of the if statement. So let's say you entered that your age is 17. What is the next thing that will come up? It will just say thanks for verifying. It's going to skip because if that Boolean expression will evaluate the false. So those 2 lines on console log will not execute. Okay, so we're going to do a little practice here on Bubble 7 with our if statements and Boolean expressions. So you try it. This is only slightly different from the voting example you just saw. Add an if statement to the code that we have to check the age to see if the person is old enough to drive. In most states, you need to be 16 or older. Display a message if the person is old enough to drive. We can do this by dragging if statements, which is going to be in the control. So first let's just run this. It says, please enter your age, right? I'm going to say 16. Well, it's going to run this no matter what, right? So yes, okay, 16 is old enough to drive, but let's see if I say 12, it still says in the console log you're old enough to drive. So we need a conditional statement. We need an if statement. We only want this to run, it looks like you're old enough to drive, if the age that I entered is greater than or equal to 16. So we have our variable. If the variable I entered for age is greater than or equal to 16, then run this. So let's try it again. Please enter your age, 16. It looks like you're old enough to drive. Thanks for verifying. But let's try it with younger. You can't, younger than 16, 15. It just says thanks for verifying. Doesn't say it looks like you're old enough to drive. And then let's try it like with 70 or 95, which some people might argue is too old to drive. Oh wait, did I run it? 95. Yes, I did run it. Okay. Yes, you are old enough to drive, certainly. Okay. So that was a quick introduction to Boolean expressions and if statements. And so what I'd like you to do is finish bubbles 8, 9, 10, and 11 will just be some information, and just finish up to the end of the lesson. I hope you have a great week, and probably we'll see you guys next year. See ya.